Welcome to the Wild Hearts at Work podcast. My name is Melissa Boggs. I am your host, and this week I have the coolest consultant that I have ever talked to on this episode. So I am so excited to introduce you all to Kevin Monroe, who is a gratitude consultant. I'm going to say that one more time because you may have never heard it before. He is a gratitude consultant. Kevin has helped 25,000 people across 50 countries to grow their gratitude in both organizations and individuals. And it's just such a cool thing. So, Kevin, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, Melissa, I am excited to be here with you and to talk to you wild hearts that are joining us for this conversation.
Woo! All right. So I have to start with the question that probably everyone is wondering. Gratitude consultant. How do you get that job, Kevin?
Well, you create it, Melissa.
Yes.
It's a funny. I never set out to be a gratitude consultant. I was a consultant. I think maybe this little thing called a global pandemic helps because the business I had that I had spent 14 years building evaporated.
Mm.
And I didn't set out to create a gratitude consulting business. It's the interesting thing because these things, and I know you know this, Melissa, and you listening to us, you probably know this as well. They're these passion things. They're these things that call to us. They're these things that maybe we just do, and we never realize. Gosh, that could be a business. So for me, it goes back a little over 3 years specifically, but I was in a really dark place, and I remember the date, April 17th. 2018. I could not drag my fanny out of bed that day. It was a dark day, depressed. And when I did, here's the power, what I think of a morning routine. I leaned into my morning routine, doing it with no energy, no emotion. But in that, I cried out, and it was just this prayer for help. Spark creativity in me because there was no spark of anything that day. And I was in this liminal space for about 45 minutes, and all of a sudden, there's this idea almost fully formed. And we launched, I called a friend. I said, "Hey, I have an idea. I want to launch the extraordinary experiment." Because
Mm.
I think there are a lot of people that are just like me. Maybe like not you, Melissa, because you know you're extraordinary. But no, I mean, there's some of us, just when we look in the mirror, we just see ordinary. And there's just nothing really. We don't have any exceptional talent, skills, any of that, and we just feel ordinary. But we have these desires, these longings. So we thought, what if we spent 90 days, 13 weeks, each week of the challenge, we laid out a challenge. What if we could go from living an ordinary life to a little more extraordinary life? And Melissa, it was 3 years ago that actually put me on a path that led to becoming gratitude consultant. And it was just this iteration of things, one thing after another. We can talk about those if you want, but yeah, I'll stop there a moment. See what questions you have before I just launch into more of the story.
First of all, stunning. We've actually known each other for a couple of years, but I didn't know the story that far back. And I mean, it's really striking to me that like in your darkest moment came your brightest light, because this is what I think about when I think about you. I think about gratitude. I do think about extraordinary life. I knew of your podcast and whatnot, but I didn't know the place that it came from. And I think that's important. Like, it's not, you're not always like sitting on your back porch in the sunshine with an iced tea and then suddenly, strikes genius. Sometimes it's like in the hardest times. So that's incredible. No, go on with the story. Just
So
go
yeah,
on.
the darkest times, the hardest times. So we did this 13 weeks, and we identified what I would call stair-step challenges. Each one got a little more difficult. It started with just the awareness challenge. What if we were just aware of the people around us, the places we are as we go throughout our day? Because most of us are absorbed with something. Our heads are in the phone, our heads are in if you back when people commuted, maybe you were on the plane, the train, the bus, and you were looking at the newspaper or reading a book or magazine and just oblivious to life around us, totally oblivious. So we started with that, and we stepped up and up and up. And right in the middle of the 13 weeks, week 6, we had this thing called the gratitude challenge. And honestly, it was the first time in my life when I started thinking, what does it really mean to be grateful? And because I had always assumed being grateful and being thankful were the same thing. And in that week, when so on Mondays, we'd drop a video. On Wednesdays, we'd come back in and provide some tools and tips to help people. And then on Fridays, we'd reflect. What happened this week? What was different? What did you notice? That gratitude week is like, wow, I think there's really something different about gratitude. So that's when it started. April and May of 2018. Fast forward a year, I was coming up on episode 100 of my podcast, and I wanted to do something different. I'd met a guy that had written a book on gratitude. He was coming to join me for episode 101. We wanted to ground that second 100 episodes in the good soil of gratitude.
Mm.
And June 17th, I remember some dates. I don't remember all dates, but June 17th, 2019, in my morning creativity time, meditation, prayer, there's this idea: host a gratitude challenge. Now, Melissa, I had no idea what a gratitude challenge was. Let's host one. So I called Steve, the guy that had written the book, and I said, "Hey, Steve, I have an idea. You want to join me and host a gratitude challenge?" And Melissa, I thought Steve would just ask all kind of questions, would say, how would that work? I don't think so. And instead, Steve says, "Count me in." And so then we called my friend and collaborator, Christy. The three of us met on a Zoom that afternoon, and in an hour's time, we outlined minimal viable product, folks. I mean,
Woo!
what could we do? Okay, so I want to park here just a moment and say this is radically different from the old Kevin Monroe. The old Kevin Monroe would take 90 days at least to create the first 90-day plan of what we're going to do something, and then maybe we'll launch it. Or maybe we'll get so discouraged in 90 days of planning a 90-day plan that project will never see the light of day. Do you know
I,
what it's like?
I do. I will tell you that, I know a lot of my listeners are Agilists, and many of you are cheering right now because, that is exactly what we talk with folks about, is like, just do the thing. Like,
Do the
just
thing.
try something. Do the experiment, as Rich says.
Run the experiment. So, yes, and Rich Sheridan, who was with you a few weeks ago, Rich is a friend of mine. He's been a mentor to me. And I tell Rich, I mean, it was Rich 10 years ago. You said to me, "Kevin, around here, we don't boil the ocean. We don't burn the ships. We just run the experiment." That is what I started doing 3 years ago, Melissa. I started running experiments. I started doing things. We'd get ideas, and then we would say, what can we do? And gosh, you can launch a landing page in a day. I mean, or less than a day. And that's what we do. We'd create a landing page. So that first extraordinary experiment, we put up a landing page, promoted it for 2 weeks. We had 274 people from 28 countries join us for this 90-day extraordinary experiment. 247 people completed the 90 days with us. And
Mm.
I still hear from some of those 3 years later, telling stories, things that happened, and the change it made in their life. So anyway, 2019, we have this idea of a gratitude challenge. And it was just like, gosh, what if we invited people in for 10 days and we just guided you on the process of gratitude? What difference could 10 days of gratitude make in your life? So we were going to run this as a closed cohort, right? Started with one group of 10 people. And so we end up launching this. And sometimes you don't really plan things. Because if I would have looked at a calendar, we would not have launched this when we launched it, because we're going to, episode 101 of my podcast dropped on July 2nd. So that's when we wanted to announce this. That meant we were going to launch this program the following Monday, July 8th. And right about that time is when I realized, oh, there's this little holiday in the United States, little bitty,
Just a little one.
yeah, most people just work through it anyway. I'm
They
like,
don't
oh my
barbecue
God.
or wave
Yeah,
flags or anything.
people are going to be on vacation the week we're trying to recruit people for an event. How dumb is that? So we just lowered our expectations. We said, what if we had 100 people? Certainly we can get 100 people to join us. So by Friday, July 5th, we had 100 people. On Saturday, July 6th, a friend of mine tweets me and tells me he's listening to my podcast, and he had a question. And all of a sudden we start talking about this gratitude challenge. He said, hey, do you mind if I share that with my friends? Sure, share it with your friends. Well, his friends happen to be this global network. It's Sunday morning, he calls me. He says, can I put this in my blog post tonight? I'm like, sure, put it in your blog post. So we have 100 people at noon on Saturday. By noon on Monday, we have 290 people signed up. Another 190 people come out of the woodwork to join us. Now, Melissa, I never thought we'd do this again. We were just going to run this 10-day challenge. We ran it as a closed cohort, you may have heard me say. On Tuesday, we have 100 people on a waiting list. And somebody goes, well, what are you going to do, Kevin? I'm like, I don't know. I guess we're going to do it again. I mean, you got people waiting. Melissa, that is the official start to a gratitude consulting business. I mean, it was that journey. It was that path. We just wanted to do something to help people grow gratitude. And then one thing led after another. And I love that you and I are talking about this. And I'll tell you why I love it. Because you and I, our paths crossed again through World Blue at their conference 2020. And World Blue, my friend Tracy Fenton, had asked would I do a gratitude webinar for them. And I'm like, oh, no. Who wants to go to a webinar on gratitude? And I thought about that. And by that, I mean, and I've done a lot of webinars in my life. I'm not bashing webinars, but you know, when most people think of a webinar, you think of a talking head.
Mm-hmm.
And so many webinars are, hey, let's build the audience. We'll talk for 45 minutes. We'll take questions for 7, and then we'll pitch you for 8, you know, whatever that is. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And so I thought about it. I thought, I came up with this idea, a gratitude encounter. And then I thought, and I said, you know, what's really important in this gratitude encounter is what if we had somebody that had a real life story to tell?
Do you know anyone like that, Kevin?
Then I'm thinking, do I know anyone like that? And that's when I saw Melissa at this conference, because it was back when I was hosting gratitude encounters that you and I first met. You joined us for one of those gratitude encounters. And then you took those concepts and you rolled with them. I mean, I still talk about this to this day because I think this is one of the best practices. Hey, how do you launch? And you did it on Slack channel. You rolled out a gratitude channel on your Slack and you started doing shout outs. Hey, what do we have to be grateful for? Right? You can tell that story better than I can, but I invite you to join me on this gratitude, the very first gratitude encounter. Melissa is my real life case story of the difference gratitude makes. And Melissa, from that, it built. And then September 10th, if you really want to know when I went into the gratitude consulting business, I guess it was September 10th, 2020. I was on my morning walk. And this question was just blazed across my mind because according to Gallup Strengths Finder, one of my number one strengths, it was when I took it years ago. Now it's not quite number one, it's number 2, but was learner.
Me too.
Okay. So let me just ask you something, fellow learner. And all of you wild heart learners out there, some of you wild hearts are learners too, right? Do you ever get quickly bored with something you've learned and you're ready to go on to the next thing?
Yes.
Okay, Melissa, you're the one that told me, "Hey, this is audio. This is not video. They can't see." I seen Melissa long
Yes.
before you said yes, nodding your head. Oh, yeah, that's me. So, Melissa, you'll get this question. The question that blazed in my mind September 10th, 2020. Of all of the things that energize and excite you, right? Because that's a lot of things. And those things come from times. I mean, clients years ago, clients would, "Hey, would you help us do this?" I'm like, "Sure." And I'd commit to do that because I tell myself, I'm just learning this now. This is exciting. I'm sure I'll do multiple sessions on this. So I'll spend all of these hours developing this content for a client. And by the time I'm developed it and done it twice, I'm like, I'm ready to go on to the next thing, the next thing.
Eh.
So the question that day, of all of the things that energize and excite you, what is the one thing that has the broadest appeal and the greatest impact?
Mm.
So I'm just going to let that sit a moment with you listening to us. I'd ask you the same question. Of all of the things that energize and excite you, you've read a book about this, you got excited about this, you did a project about this. Hey, if you want to make something commercially viable, these next two pieces are really important. What has the broadest appeal and the greatest impact? And Melissa, my instant answer. You care to guess?
Underwater basket weaving.
That was number 2. But number 1, gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude. And in that moment, I knew that that one-time gratitude encounter I had done for World Blue needed to be done again and again and again. So that day I came back, showered, because I was on my morning walk, came back, showered, committed, and I didn't even remember. We were leaving for vacation 3 days later. So I wanted to take action. Okay, so here's another point. This is just what I believe, folks. I think Melissa will buy into this. I don't know. We'll find out in just a second. This is the fun part of doing live stuff, right? Hey, when inspiration knocks at your door, do something. Take action. That's just my belief. When an inspired idea shows up, I have really I have 2 responsibilities. The first is to say yes, open the door, say yes to the idea. The second is to do something, take action. So that day, I set up, I looked at my calendar. I said, the first Tuesday of every month, I will host a gratitude encounter. And I'm going to do this for the next, and I didn't even remember because later that day I called Christy, my colleague, collaborator again, and she goes, "Okay, you tell me something new's coming. How long are you doing this?" I'm like, "I don't know, Christy." And I looked and I'm like, "Oh, I've committed to do it through April of 2021, 7 months." I was going to do it for 7 months, Melissa, before I decided, is this working or not? Right? Because gosh, maybe some of you out there are like me, can be manipulated by numbers, metrics, and you do something one time and 12 people
Mm.
show up. You do something the next time and only 5 people show up and you go, "Oh, this is a bad idea. Stop it." No, I just knew I needed to commit to this. So I committed to do it for 7 months before I ever decided, will I continue? That was going to be my testing period, 7 months. So the next week, we're at the beach. And it was such a windy day, I couldn't even look at the ocean. The sand was blowing. So I'm turning around, got my chair with my back to the ocean. I'm just sitting there. And then another idea pops. What if you started
Ding.
recording videos? Because you need to do videos. You need to do videos and that kind of thing. I'm like, I don't want to do videos. What if you did short videos that were gratitude encounter moments, little gems that help light the way for people to find a path to gratitude? What if you do those twice a week? I'm like, okay, I'll commit to do those. So we're recording this on a Thursday. So tomorrow, so Monday of this week, I recorded gem number 97.
Oh my goodness.
And tomorrow I will record and release gem number 98. I said, I'm going to do this and I'm not going to be manipulated by metrics because again, if I look at how many people watch those videos and all of that, sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little, but I'm on a mission.
Mhm.
Right? I'm on a mission to grow gratitude globally. So that's all of this that happened. So we start this, and month one, October, I hosted one of these gratitude encounters. It was awesome. November was awesome. December, something happened. Well, between November and December, a friend of mine says, "Hey, Kevin, this is a commercially viable service?" I'm like, "Nah, had no idea." I'm being totally honest here, Melissa. Tobin Slavin is the friend that said that to me. I'm like, "No, Tobin." Tobin says, "I think," and so we developed this into a commercially viable service. And earlier this month, I hosted a gratitude encounter for the National Health Service of the United Kingdom.
Oh my goodness.
And it's kind of like, wow, how does that happen? In 9 months, you go from an idea to actually globally recognized clients partaking of a service. So that's, I mean, and I'm on this mission to grow gratitude globally. So we started this gratitude encounter as a commercial service. And it's where I customize these concepts so that they fit like a glove to what's happening inside a company. And we come in and we do an encounter with your team. And I'm looking. I brought one up on the screen, and I do this every time, Melissa. I mean, and I this was an idea that hit me in January because, and this hit me in January, the beginning of the first week of January, not the middle of the week. And I'm really glad. And some of you will catch on. Some of you may, what's he talking about? Um, you know, if you remember when January started this year, 2021, I don't know why people thought there was a magic flip of the calendar and all of a sudden coronavirus, COVID would be history. We'd be done.
Right.
This beautiful future was awaiting us, and it's only going to get better and brighter by the day.
Mm.
And then on that Wednesday, something happened, and it sucked
Mhm.
the wind out of our country and around the world, right? On that Tuesday, the Tuesday before that, I started leaning into hope like I've never leaned into hope before. Since that time, every time I do a meeting, I ask people, let's do a hope check. And I ask this question. Think back over the last 7 days. So I'd invite you to do this now. You listening, look back, whatever time it is you're listening, think back over the last 7 days. If hope is a 10-point scale, 0 to 10, what's your level of hope? Are you running on empty? Do you have a quarter tank, half tank, three-quarter tank, or you run on a full tank? And then in this moment, as you are listening to Melissa and me talk right now, what's your level of hope? So I ask those questions, and I ask those questions at the start of every gratitude encounter, Melissa. And then we do a gratitude encounter. And then at the end, I ask the questions again. What's your level of hope now after this hour in gratitude? And you know what happens?
Mm.
Every single time, without exception, hope rises. Because here's what I know: hope grows in the soil of gratitude. A lot of other good things grow in the soil of gratitude too, but hope grows in gratitude. So here's one I'm looking at the screen, and I've seen all kinds of numbers. One group had their in the moment number was lower than their 7 week average. Usually the last 7 day, I mean 7 days, not 7 week, 1 week average. Usually the last 7 day number is a little bit lower than in the moment, because in the moment we've come together with people for a focused purpose. We know we're going to have some good time together. So there's a little rise of hope. So this week, this one group, their number was 7.1 over the last week. I've seen it as low as 3.5.
Mm.
Uh, and then at the end of in this moment, as we were starting, it was 7.9. 55 minutes later, 9.2.
That's a huge shift.
It's a huge shift. I see this every time I do these, Melissa. It's like, wow, hope grows. Why? Because we start focusing on what's good in the world. And you listening, we all know there's plenty of not so good in the world right now. There's plenty not so good in the world of work right now. But when we focus on the good, we see the good grow. So, oh, wow. You ready for question 2, Kevin? No.
Yes. No. This is it,
Tease it.
it's such a first of all, such a unique story that you have, which is exactly why I wanted you to join me. Your energy is contagious, and where you're headed is so important right now. I mean, as you were talking, like, what is your level of hope? And hope grows in the soil of gratitude. Anyone who knows me knows that, like, literally, I believe I'm telling this on my podcast, but one day I will get a tattoo that says the audacity of hope.
Woo!
It's a Barack Obama title from his book, and I am a
Yeah.
huge supporter of President Obama, but more than that, hope is audacious.
Hope is
Like,
audacious.
you cannot be hopeful in the face of, some of the things that we are faced with, especially lately, without like a tremendous amount of audacity. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it means that you are much more invested in the things that are inside of you and inside of the people around you
Yeah.
than you are the context that happens to be going on right now, right? Because the world will change, but like, people are people.
Yeah.
And so all of that resonates so much with me. I want to go back a little bit, though. A couple of
Sure.
things that you said, I want to make sure that we highlight. First of all, just take action. That resonates with me so much because that's literally what I did with this podcast. So
Yeah.
I had been thinking about and had been told for quite some time, oh, you should do a podcast, right? And one day I sort of had this notion of what it would be about.
Mm.
So it went from like, yeah, I should do that someday. There's lots of topics I could talk about. But the minute that it hit me, like, people need to hear this so they don't know they're crazy.
Yeah.
People need to hear that other people care about gratitude. That other people care about changing the way that we work. And so I put out my 8-minute trailer.
Yep.
And to also your point about not being manipulated by metrics, um, metrics are important to a certain degree. But what was more important to me than like the numbers of the trailer were the people who reached out to me, on LinkedIn or Twitter, whatever, and said, yes, like just to the 8 minutes of the trailer, they said, yes, like, let's
Yeah.
go, you know? And so I think that's so important to, like, first of all, just take action. And second of all, the numbers don't matter as much as the people behind the numbers, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I want to use us as an example real quick. You sort of alluded to it, but I think it's kind of cool to talk about like why we're even here and how I even know you. Which is that when you did, I don't know if it was the first 10-day challenge. It might have
It was
been.
early. It was early. I do know
Yeah.
that.
I think that the only reason that I saw it, because we were not yet connected, was because Rich liked it
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
LinkedIn will show you what your friends liked. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get in on this. Okay. And so that's when I started the gratitude channel for Scrum Alliance. And so I took of your 10-day gratitude challenge each day. I would take the challenge. It was the first thing I did in the morning.
Mm.
Like, I woke up,
Yep.
6:30 a.m. on my phone, copy and pasted your challenge into our Slack channel. And that, evolved into us having this conversation. But it's important, like, to connect it back to the numbers don't matter, the people behind them do,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm just one person, right?
Yeah.
But because of that chance encounter, if you will, we have a great friendship.
Yes, we do.
We have helped each other, in this work because there's a huge alignment between gratitude and, I don't know exactly what you would call my work yet, but, helping elevating employee experience, like
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
people not feel alone in, wanting something different for themselves at work. So I think it's just really powerful how it's all connected.
It is.
So I have a question for
All right.
you. You already sort of alluded to, at least one client that you've had. You don't need to name names, but
Oh.
what types of companies are inviting you in? Have any of them surprised you? Like, oh, I didn't think they'd be the kind of company who cared about gratitude.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here's what's interesting. So how do you interpret the word what type, right? When we
Mm.
do we think industry type? Because industry type does kind of mystify me because one of these
Mm.
was a global financial giant
Ooh.
that happened to be in commercial real estate. And it was in their commercial real estate division that I had a friend and he wanted to do this with his team. And so we did it. But it wasn't necessarily something that the whole global
Mhm.
enterprise would be behind because
Yet.
they were very, financially bottom line motivate, let's focus on the numbers, that type of people. But the type of person that led a department was the
One
type of
person.
person, right, who believed in gratitude and knew his team needed this message. So that one's kind of funny, when you look at that. Um, so some are really natural to me. And then and some so here's what I would say. The type of company is industry agnostic.
Okay.
I don't now I believe there's some industries that lean that way. So, but it's really the leadership. Does the leadership value culture and people? Right? Because if a company, and so we find, and no surprise in your space, a lot of IT companies recognize everything we do can be duplicated or ripped off except the way we treat our people or the culture we create here. Culture is our true competitive advantage. So, if you're a company that believes culture is your competitive advantage and you're wanting to create a people first culture, hey, whether you thought of it or not, gratitude is in the mix. And getting those
Mhm.
people to really explore and express and experience gratitude. So, one of the things, so many of the companies that I've worked with, when we go and create a customized gratitude encounter for them, you know what's kind of at the core of that? The values that they have been working to put into action. So one of the things, and man, gosh, Melissa, stories. Uh, I ask, what's a value you're grateful to see in action in the way you deal with people or make decisions? And
Mm.
then we go into conversations and exploring that and the stories that come out of that. Because, hey, if your values don't really show up in how you make decisions or how you treat people, they're not values.
No.
They're words on the wall, right?
Paper,
So,
paper. Yep.
yeah. So, but when we ask what's a value you're grateful to see in action. So, this commercial real estate company, Canada, some of the folks went back because they were ethnic minorities. They went back to the summer of 2020 where there was a lot of tension in the world.
Mhm.
And the company had a value of valuing uh, uniqueness and valuing diversity. And the leaders reached out to all of those people that were people of color or ethnic origin and making sure they were doing okay, making sure they felt okay because they knew the world was a toxic mess at that moment. Are you
Yeah.
okay in the world? And your experience here. And when I started hearing people share this story, hey, I knew the company more than the company, my leaders cared about me. And that value of valuing diversity, I saw in action in the way they supported me when it was a toxic mess in the culture around us, in the country at large. Like,
Mhm.
oh, that's interesting. Another one, another team. Uh, I love this one. I mean, this is one of my favorite responses. I'm going into a breakout room and I'm hearing them talk about valuing values that they see in action. And the CFO said, our CEO is annoyingly ethical. And I burst into laughter because, Melissa, I can't think of any other value that annoyingly would be a great adverb for. Is annoying an
Totally.
adverb, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but to say that somebody is annoyingly ethical? Wow. You're
I
saying
want that.
yeah, I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I still tell the CEO when I see him, I just every time I think of him, I think, "You are annoyingly ethical." And what a great thing to say about somebody. Um, Healthcare companies, it's no surprise. I don't think I should call names, but one of the leading pharmaceutical companies on the planet that help
Mhm.
produce a vaccine that's really important. We're doing gratitude work with them right now. Because you know what? They're people. Their people gave a lot and
Yeah.
did a lot extra and put in extra hours, extra effort. And how do we help them reflect on that, celebrate it? Well, let's share gratitude, right? So
Mm.
um all kinds of so it's not so much so here's what I would say. If you've got an industry that you think is beyond gratitude, call me. I want to
Nice.
I want to hear that because I don't believe in any industry. Now, there's some companies where the leadership are ungrateful, entitled messes, and they're probably not going to be at the front of the line to do gratitude. And I'll just say this, at the point I am in this gratitude consulting journey, Melissa, I'm not seeking to convert the unconverted, the unbeliever. I'm not seeking to convert the ungrateful.
Mm.
Who
Okay.
I'm looking for are people that for whom gratitude matters, but they're not sure how to activate it. They're not sure how to put it into action because here's something I say in every gratitude encounter. I don't know if I said it in that very first one because I don't know if I'd landed on this language, the one you were on with World Blue. But gratitude experienced is way better than gratitude explained.
I just wanna sit with that for a second. Say it again.
Gratitude experienced is way better than gratitude explained. So I don't come and do the webinar that tells you, and I'm not diminishing anyone that does, but your body and your brain produce these hormones and oxytocin and endorphins and all of this stuff, that serotonin, that's what floods your body. And you hear a lecture for 45 minutes on that and you go, okay, gratitude must really be important. Or what if we come together and we have a guided experience where we actually express gratitude and people go, oh, that felt good. I mean, here I've got word clouds in front of me. Every time I do one of these, I ask people what word or phrase best describes your experience here today. Connected, uplifting, validating, refreshing, positive, um, brighter, enlightening, happier, relaxing, refreshing, enlightening. Those are words I hear a lot. I saw one with the NHS I'd never seen before, and it floored
Mm.
me. And let me tell you the story. So the lady that was in charge of the team, and people are working from home right now. Most of us work from home can be a bit stressful at times. Maybe you listening have experienced that. And I could tell that she was a bit distracted and stuff going on in the background. I see her waving her hands and trying to, I don't know whether it's, hey, get the dog out of here, get the kid out of here, get the partner out of here. They're obnoxious. I don't know. But there was something, and I saw this, and then we go through this hour-long gratitude encounter, and we're doing this word cloud, and words are popping up on the screen, and I see a word pop up on the screen, and I call the person by name, and I said, "Did you type lighter? I've never seen that word before. Did you type that?" She said, "How did you know?"
How did you know?
I watched it happen, is
Oh
what I
my
said.
gosh.
I watched it happen. I said, your posture, your countenance has changed from what it was at the beginning of the hour. She had a beautiful smile. She was smiling. She wasn't smiling at the start of the hour. There she was smiling. Her body posture was relaxed. Right? It wasn't this tense. She was relaxed. I said, "Did you type that?" She goes, "Yes." So later that day, she sends me an email. I still feel lighter. The
Mm.
next morning, we're communicating on LinkedIn. She drops into the message. I still feel lighter.
That is incredible. That is incredible. I think that's a good point too. It lasts, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not, you know, there are a lot of things that we do in life to make ourselves feel better, healthy or not healthy, that kind of only last in the moment. You know, like I can come
Like the
home
caffeine
and
jolt.
yeah, a caffeine jolt or a bowl of ice cream,
Yeah.
and like, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. I love
No.
a good bowl of ice cream, but when the ice cream's gone, you know, that feeling is gone. And so I think that's interesting that it stuck with her, that it lasted. That's incredible. I want to ask you one more question
Okay.
because I kind of want to connect it. So here you are, clearly living your life's work, or at least what it is for now.
For
And who
now.
knows, you know, who knows what it develops into.
Thanks for saying that. I mean, that's an important part, folks, right? I mean, some of these things, they may be seasonal for us. I've done work around purpose. That was a season in life. But
Yeah.
all of those seasons led to where I am now. And I think this is it. At least it's it for now. But
Mhm.
maybe it runs a course and leads to something else. I don't know that, Melissa, but go ahead with your question. But I just think it's such a beautiful point. You don't need to figure out, hey, this is what I'm going to do for the next 15, 50 years of my life. Be prepared to, but hold it with open hands. And if it changes and if it moves directions, go with the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So, want to connect it back to
Hmm.
20 years ago. I mean, not literally, but just,
No,
you
I can
know,
connect it back. I can connect it back to 45 years ago.
hmm. So talk about what it's like to be a person with the kind of spirit that you have that is clearly coming through in the audio, on the video, just in your voice. You've
Mhm.
always been this person. I mean, this spirit that you have has always been inside of you. How has that spirit like expanded or
Mm.
shrunk or been lit on fire
Oh my
or
gosh.
the fire been stuffed out depending on your circumstances
Yeah.
and what is
Oh
around
my
you?
gosh.
I probably should have asked you this 40 minutes ago, but we're
Yeah.
gonna go with it.
Yeah, no, so, here's why I say I can go back 45 years. From the time I was a teenager, yes, some of you are doing the math. He's an old fellow. No, I'm 61. From the time I was a teenager, Melissa, I knew I wanted to make a difference with my life. I wanted to make the world a better place. That's what I've known. And that has been the quest. Now, if you were to look at my life, you'd see big zigzag, right? Oh, over here, go do this, go do this. But it's interesting. Even the most crooked road in America, I don't know if it is in the world. Do you happen to know what that road is?
No.
Lombard Street in San Francisco. Remember the zigzag street? I mean, but if you look at that as crooked as, I mean, it's just zigzag all the way to, there's a straight line through from top to bottom, right? So
Oof.
our life may look like a zigzag and you feel like you've gone over here, you're over here, but there's a through line. And that through line for me is doing work that makes a difference for other people. Making the world a better place. So that's what has propelled all of my endeavors, and they've been really different ones, different things. But that's the through line: is how do we do work that matters? And this, I mean, this is what's at the heart of a wild heart. There's something in your heart that just doesn't let you go.
Mhm.
Follow that, pursue it, do something. But we'll go back, do something.
Just
Passion
take
project,
action.
take action, do something to just give expression to it, and then follow where it leads. Take the next step. Take the next step and connect with other people. Invite other people into the conversation. Find somebody that's doing something similar and say, "Hey, how can I help you do that?" Right? Because, like I said, I'm on this mission. I'm on a mission to grow gratitude globally. And when I first started saying that, I thought that was to build a gratitude empire. But it's to be part of and to really connect a global gratitude ecosystem,
Ooh, I love that. Oh,
right?
I love that.
Yeah, because an empire kinda has me at the top, right? I mean, when we
Mhm.
think of no, I'm not trying to be at the top, but I do. So, I mean, I've got a friend, he's doing a all, gratitude all day live stream. He needed host. I said, "Hey," he said, "Do you know anybody in other time zones?" I said, "Let me help you. Let me introduce you, and introduce you. Hey, you all need to help my friend Dave and folks from Europe, folks from Australia, folks from Hong Kong, helping my friend Dave because we're all on this same quest." So it's how do we become better, not how do we beat someone.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right. So you gave me a perfect segue. If people want to join your ecosystem, Kevin,
ah, ah,
how do they find you? How do they find out more about gratitude encounters? Like, tell us
yeah.
about you.
Okay, so at this moment, and I love that you kind of, teed this up for iterations. At this moment, we have two flagship experiences, and they are experiences. They're not training sessions, they are experiences. One of those is gratitude encounters. So all of this can be found at kevindmonroe.com. Go to a services page. You can click on free gratitude encounters. You can click on custom gratitude encounters. That's where we customize them for a company. Our second flagship experience, which we haven't even talked about here, and that's okay. It's 30 days in the power of gratitude, where we have this amazing platform. I didn't build the platform. Some friends of mine created this platform rooted in neuroscience, positive psychology, that if you will invest 5 to 10 minutes a day for 30 days, you will grow gratitude. Guaranteed, no questions asked. I'll tell you two stories real quick here, because I believe stories are the best way to illustrate these things. Not my words, somebody else's words. So we started an experience. 30 days. We are on day 4 that we're recording of this last 30-day journey that we just started. Day 1, this participant from the United Kingdom, day 1, writes this: "My soul is so hungry for this food. I notice it's a visceral experience for me to express gratitude. Every organ seems as if it's been oxygenated, revived. Great first taste today. Thanks, Kevin."
Wow. Day 1.
Day 1, 2 sessions ago, a participant from Australia, day 1, posted, "I go to bed tonight, my world's completely different, even though it's the same world it was yesterday before I started this program."
Man.
Yeah, when we change the way we see things, the things we see change, is what Wayne Dyer said. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change, right? Anais Nin said, "We don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are." So
Mhm.
if you want to see a different world, start looking at it differently. Look through the lens of gratitude. So we do 30 days in the power of gratitude. It is the most impactful, transformational journey we've developed yet. So gratitude encounters, 30 days in the power of gratitude, custom work for your company. You can go to kevindmonroe.com. Because you are a FOM, a friend of Melissa, a wild heart, 404-713-0713. Yeah, that's my cell phone number.
Oh my goodness.
Text me,
Wow.
call me.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I can't thank you enough just
Oh,
for
I can't thank
joining,
you enough.
for
This is awesome.
the co-created experience that we have had, how our paths have continued to cross. When I started this podcast, and you always make a wish list, like who are the people that I want to join me on the show and who really embody what I'm trying to do here, and how I'm trying to connect with people. You were, obviously in the top 10 because you're in the first top 10 episodes.
Ah,
So, so
I'm
thank you
honored.
for joining me.
And to be on a list with Rich Sheridan is a
You
great
know?
honor. It's a
It
great honor.
is.
Thank you, Melissa. And I
Uh,
just got to say, thank you listening. Right here, Melissa and I were talking about this earlier when she started. Hey, there are over 1 million podcasts on the planet at this point. It says something about you that you're
mm.
listening to this podcast now. And I want to say thank you.
Yeah, me too. In fact, that's how I end every episode. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for, making time in your day and in your heart to hear these stories. So, until next time, dear hearts, stay wild.